Hello and welcome again. Thank you for tuning in. Today is July 21st, 2016. I want to talk about one article from a Russian newspaper page called Sputnik. And they say Erdogan turned Turkey into a totalitarian state. Is that true? Well, let's put things into perspective. Because people can say a lot, but if it is the way they say it is, we have to judge it by analyzing the facts that we have. Because it's very simple to just follow what people say in a biased way and not really know if it's right or wrong. So let's have a look. They say that Erdogan turned Turkey into a totalitarian state. Why would they say that? Well, we know from news beats that just recently the Turkish President Erdogan called out a state of emergency after the coup bid. He said the aim of the declaration of the state of emergency is to be able to take fast and effective steps against this threat against democracy, the rule of law, and rights and freedoms of our citizens. And that's what he said. And this state of emergency basically gives the current Turkish president the power to it gives the Turkish president and the cabinet the power to bypass the parliament. They can pass laws, and they can limit or suspend the rights and freedoms of anybody they wish to. So they can act as ever they deem necessary. And some would say that this sounds like a dictatorship or a totalitarian way of ruling. But let's look at it in perspective. Turkish president called out this state of emergency after a planned coup. Now, there are some sources or conspiracies that claim that Erdogan planned the coup himself. Whether this is true or not, people can say a lot. It should be first looked at. So, and the Turkish president is also asking the United States to send a rival cleric back home to him. And this rival cleric is, so to say, an opponent of Erdogan, who was known to have different religious views in terms of Islam, and was known to be more towards integrating Western and Islamic ideologies. And so we have here the question by a news agency asking whether Erdogan turned Turkey into a totalitarian state. Well, let's see what else happened in Turkey. A lot of people have been arrested and are facing charges. 95 academics have been removed from their post. Many other academics, or all in general, are forbidden from leaving the country. And above all, 360 serving generals have been detained. That's a third of Turkey's generals. 262 military judges and prosecutors have been suspended. So, judges and prosecutors, people in charge of legal and law, have been prosecuted and are under investigation by the defense ministry. And 900 police officers in the capital of Ankara have also been suspended so far. This is all in line with what Erdogan calls his purge, or his cleaning of Turkey from this virus. So this newspaper here calls out that the West should close its alliance with Turkey. This is according to a Canadian columnist called Doug Saunders. And what alliance does the West have with Turkey? Well, Turkey is a member of NATO, and the nations in NATO, which basically means everybody in the NATO group gets the help of the others. So if someone bullies a country who's in the NATO, all the other countries have to line up and help that person. It's basically like a schoolyard group clique. Not in a bad way, just that's how it works in a simplified manner. So this article continues to say, and brings up a quote here. So according to the journalist, Turkish authorities crossed the line, shifting towards an absolute totalitarianism. And so this is the reason why he claims that Turkey is turning into a totalitarian state, because recently the Turkish police and soldiers seized the headquarters of the traditionally anti-government Turkish newspaper Zaman on the grounds that they were given this right by judges appointed by Erdogan. Soon after the siege, the newspaper, known for its independent coverage, has printed several positive articles featuring the Turkish president. So basically what they're saying, what has happened is this. In a democratic nation, there's the freedom of speech, there's the freedom of press. So the press can report as ever they see fit, and people can say, think, and talk about whatever they see fit, as long as it doesn't harm people in a way according to human rights, like in a way harming people's dignity. But let's say you are unhappy with a ruler, and you say that you're unhappy, and you rationally quote and state the reasons of why you're unhappy, then that's freedom of speech. And if you're a newspaper, it's freedom of press. So what happened here in Turkey is that the Turkish president appointed judges who then gave out a ruling to seize a Turkish newspaper called Zaman that was in the past known to print news that was not in favor of what Erdogan is doing. So basically this could be Fox News. So basically this could be Trump, who becomes president, and he cracks down on Fox News because they would broadcast news that were not in favor of his propaganda. And soon after the siege, the newspaper, known for its independent coverage, meaning it reported things according to its view and not the agenda or propaganda of the country's leaders. Soon after its siege, it printed several positive articles featuring the Turkish president. So basically this is Fox News again, who always broadcasted and aired things that kind of put Trump in a interestingly strange light. And now suddenly, after Trump becomes president, theoretically speaking, this is just a fictionist idea, now Trump seizes Fox News, and suddenly they start featuring Trump and making positive, promoting news about him. So because of this, this article is saying Erdogan turned Turkey into a totalitarian state. Or this article is quoting maybe another journalist from Canada who believes the West needs to put an end to its close alliance with Turkey. And they also say that the way that this Canadian journalist also says that the way that Erdogan actually even came to win the latest elections was by, quote, whipping up fear of the Kurds, who make up a fifth of the country's population, and that clashes between Turks and Kurds were entirely the creation of the president himself. So that most clashes were false flags and just intended to frighten people. And there's a lot of this is not from me and some conspiracy. Hey, there's a lot of newspaper agency, Huffington Post. Turkey's left reels as Erdogan AK makes unexpected election, wins outright majority. And the Guardian view on the Turkish elections, and in it talks about, quotes maybe, dictator at saying that the election was rigged. Someone's calling him a dictator and saying that the election was rigged. Okay? And independentco.uk, was the Turkish elections rigged? So there are a lot of people asking those questions, and if you put that together, someone who came to power in a very questionable manner, not because I say so or conspiracy theorists say so, but because the eye of the majority of people, which is normal in a democratic society, looking at this and putting it in front of the backdrop of morality and ethics, kind of say like, the way that this happened was fishy. Okay, and now there's a news article saying Turkey's turning into a totalitarian state, and there you go. Those are the reasons why people are saying it's that way. Okay, because there are judges acting on behalf of Erdogan, who right now, because of his state of emergency, has, you could call it a totalitarian state of power in Turkey, and he appointed judges, and these judges seized a independent news agency. So all of these things are so similar to places where there's dictatorship and totalitarianism. For example, China, where the agenda of news agencies is to report in line with the communist ideologies. The Chinese leader, Xi Jinping, just last year, or this year, February, visited major news agencies and declared that their goal was only to report in line of the ideology of the Chinese Communist Party and promote those ideas. So basically, it's not supposed to report on news. It's supposed to the news is always ideology, and those who are against it and fall out of line get dealt with. Up to just recently, there were human rights lawyers who were incarcerated because their views, where they pointed out that there have been human rights violations in China, were basically, they were put in jail because their point of view was against the point of view of China. Okay, and there's other countries, North Korea. If you say anything against the government over there, you get put down. It's hard, you know, and it's not just there. Partly there are other countries like Russia. Okay, there have been reports that even there, the freedom of speech or the freedom to report publicly certain things that go against the government is not as free as one might think. So we should really be happy about the freedom of speech that we enjoy in the West and in Europe in many parts, because who knows if that might be coming to an end. I might talk about why I think that might be coming to a possible end in another video. Yeah, thank you very much for watching this video. Basically, this was just a rundown of an article by SputnikNews.com saying Erdogan turned Turkey into a totalitarian state, and it's basically based on the center statement of a Canadian journalist who said the West needs to put an end to its close alliance with Turkey, and the argument for why Turkey is turning into a totalitarian state is that the Turkish president appointed judges that then ordered headquarters of a traditionally anti-government Turkish newspaper to be seized. And anti-government just basically means is basically, right now in America, President Obama is the president, and there are some news agencies who report news that say that he is not the right person to be president. They just report it. So that's since Obama is the government right now, they would be anti-government. Republicans reporting in a let's say propagandic way of Republicans against Democrats would be against Democrats, since that's the ruling government right now. So basically this newspaper was doing nothing else than what newspapers or news agencies here would do. They were taken out, and what they were doing now, they're reporting things in favor of one person. And that for some people is fishy and resembles very much the line of actions that would be taken in a totalitarian state. So, thank you very much for listening, and please remember that there's always something we can do, and if it's just with ourselves and in ourselves. Stay open and stay critical, but not emotional. You can look at things without being angry, without being prejudiced, and without hating. Take care.